Alright. Yo, what's up, motherfuckers? Uh, Today, I'm coming at you talking about the Democratic debate, guys. Didn't you know? I'm a political junkie. No, not even true. I'm not. But my mom is a political junkie, right? My mom eats, breathes, sleeps politics. She is so into it. And so I've picked up a little bit through osmosis. Myself, I'm not super politically interested, but I'm interested enough that when the big debate came on the last couple of nights, I decided that I would give it a watch. And now that I've seen it, I wanted to give my thoughts out to y'all. So here we go. So first things first, I'm gonna say it right the fuck out. This shit was a clusterfuck. Holy fuck. 20 candidates, my guys, and almost all of them failed to stand out from the crowd in any meaningful way. Oh my god, they all just came off as fucking boring. They were all the same. It was very homogenous, very homogenous. There were so many candidates that actually they had to split the debate into two nights, and that's how I'm going to have to look at it. So, the first night, they tell us that the candidates were picked at random, which ones would be in each night, but let's be real here. This was not random at all. Night one was definitely the fucking B team. Almost nobody who was actually popular showed up for night one. Night two is where all the good stuff happens. But just like the actual debates themselves, let's start with night one. So, a lot of this shit was kind of forgettable. I'm gonna go for the actually memorable parts here. And first things first, I'm gonna talk about Beto O'Rourke. Whew, the big loser of part one, I would say, was Beto. Beto O'Rourke did bad. He came off real bad. It was honestly from the moment that he started talking in Spanish, I shit you not, I said to myself, this guy is a slime ball. What a slime ball. Listen, he's only doing it to score some cheap points from the Latino sector of the voting base, without actual policy, just by saying he could speak Spanish. Well, la-di-fucking da, go you. Honestly, though, what I noticed about him was that the ways he stood out from the pack were actually in ways where he was more far right than them, which isn't going to help in a Democrat debate, where everybody's trying to be the biggest Democrat candidate that can take down Trump. So I don't know if that really helped him out. I noticed he also didn't seem to want to take any kind of hard stance on firearms or immigration. He didn't want to say he was going to be, lighter on immigration from the southern border, and he definitely didn't want to take any hard stance about firearms and limiting access to firearms. So this kind of suggests to me that Beto he's not quite going for full stop for president here. I think there's a part of him that's really trying to use this presidential run as a way to bolster himself for future elections in Texas. That's where he's from, and hey, what a coincidence. A lot of these issues where he didn't want to take a hard left stance are issues that would be pretty controversial in Texas. So, I don't know, it seemed kind of calculated. It seemed to me like Beto wasn't quite going full stop here, so he came off not looking so great. Gotta be honest. Now then, firearms. I did bring them up, and I don't mind telling you my basic opinions on firearms issues is that I lean more right than a lot of the candidates in these debates, and a lot of the people I know, to be honest. But I do believe in, how would you say, background checks, closing some loopholes and shit like that. But a lot of these candidates were talking about bans on assault weapons and even government buybacks of assault weapons, some of which were mandatory buybacks, where presumably citizens would be legally forced to give up their assault weapons to the government. Now, when the government starts talking about legally telling people that they have to give up their own property, I don't know. I don't know about that. For me, that's a little far. I know this is a political issue, but I'm just putting it out there. I'm not into the mandatory buybacks. Even the for choice buyback system if it's gonna be a system where a person couldn't buy those assault weapons legally anymore, and they're giving up they're selling back their firearms, I don't know, man. That seems a little sketchy to me. Uh, I believe that most gun owners are pretty responsible people, and it seemed like the person who came out and said the same in that night one debate was Elizabeth Warren, who she definitely wanted to minimize it. She didn't make a big deal of this, but when they were talking firearms, she did come out and say the same kind of thing. Most gun owners are pretty responsible, and she didn't want to make any sort of hard stance. So maybe I missed it. Maybe she just wanted to move past it. Maybe she was into the whole buyback thing. I don't know. But I didn't catch that, at least. So for me, Elizabeth Warren was my personal favorite on night one. But again, the entire night was basically pretty mediocre. Not many people stood out in any way. Night two is where the big names came out. Everybody was out swinging. This is Bernie Sanders. This is Sanders, Biden, Harris, Gillibrand. Gillibrand and Andrew Yang as well. They were all here, and a lot of these are names that people really enjoy. So this was the more interesting night for sure. So I'm gonna get a few of these things out right away. First things first. Most annoying person in this entire debate was Gillibrand by far. Holy cow! So the way the debate was structured was that people were given like a minute to say their piece, and most people would go overtime by a little bit, but Gillibrand would go way over. Like, she would use up more than twice her allotted time every time she got the chance to speak. And even then, she would still call out and interrupt and try to get her voice in there so much. I got the feeling that she's one of those candidates that feels like she might have a chance if she can get her voice out there a little more. So that's why she was going so far for it, but Jesus Christ, she just came off as annoying. She also tried to play the woman card, saying shit like, who would fight for women harder than me? Like, oh my god, whatever, fine, do it. It just annoys me. I don't know. It's just one of those things like, I'm a woman. But that was Gillibrand. All she came off to me was annoying. I would also say that the close second, someone who came off as very annoying, possibly dumb, was that author. There was this author lady, I don't remember her name, I think it was Williams or Williamson or something like that. She was this lady who every time she spoke, she just kind of talked nonsense. It was empty talk, and it was weird. Like, her closing statement on the whole debate was basically talking, like, to Trump. She's like, Donald Trump, when it's you versus me in this presidential election, I'm gonna take you down, not with hate, but with love. What the fuck are you talking about, you nutcase? I'm gonna beat Trump with love. What is this, Captain Planet? Heart? Get out of here. Holy shit, she was a fucking empty-headed moron, dude. Jesus. And she was even talking shit like, nobody's gonna win this election with empty talk. Nobody's gonna win it with plans. We need action. But then she's gonna go out and, like, tell us no action. All she's gonna tell us is words. And not even plans. She's just gonna talk about love. Like, whatever. So she was an idiot. I hated her. I would say, though, that despite all that, the big loser on night two was Joe Biden, my guys. Oh, Biden. Wow. This guy was attacked on all sides. Jesus, I remember especially he got into it with Harris. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden went toe-to-toe about an issue that Biden had supported in the past, which led to discriminatory school bus treatment for black students. I think black students had to ride a different bus or some kind of thing. It was pretty bad. He came off looking pretty bad there. But I think the even more brutal thing was there was one of the candidates, I don't remember his name, all I remember was his attack on Joe Biden, but he was telling this story about how, like, 30 years ago or something, an older politician came to his school and said that it's time for his generation to pass the torch. And then the guy said, and that politician that said that, his name was Joe Biden. Oof. Now that was brutal. That was brutal. It makes Biden look power hungry. It makes him look dishonest, maybe thoughtless or careless, like everything. He came off looking so bad, and he was sort of smiling and laughing as it was said to make it look like, oh, that doesn't bother me, but it better have bothered him because that was the biggest attack on him. Made him look completely disingenuous. And that was a big oof moment. And honestly, once people had used up their ammo against Biden, he started to come back in like the final half hour of the interview, but the damage was done. He really came off as the loser, especially because whenever he got to talk, he really seemed like he was trying to make himself into Obama 2.0. Everyone else was trying to make themselves look like shiny and so much better than anything we'd had before, but Biden was just like, listen, we gotta just go with what Obama was doing. We gotta continue the Obama train. Which I get it. You can't throw your old pal under the bus like that. Obama and Biden were a team, but I don't know. He just came off seeming not as exciting as everyone else. I'd also like to talk about Andrew Yang. Yang, I think he was kind of snubbed in this interview, to be honest. So, to those who don't know, and I think that's a lot of people, Yang is the candidate who's pushing for a universal basic income system, where I believe all citizens over 18 years old would get $1,000 a month. And that's interesting, and I would like to have heard a lot more about how that was going to work. But he was only ever asked like 2 or 3 questions. And honestly, some of those were questions asked to the entire panel. I think he was only given one question and a follow-up question to that question. In the entire 2-hour debate, he was only asked like one question. It was actually pretty bad. And the question he was asked, it was like basically just made to frame his entire position as kind of dumb. It was like, your universal basic income plan would cost the country over $1 trillion a year. Do you really think that you could do this without bankrupting the United States of America? And without missing a beat, Yang actually came back and said that under the tax plan that he proposes, he could pay for the entire universal basic income plan quite easily. And they're like, oh, I see. So you're going to give people $1,000 a month, but then ask them to pay it all back in taxes, huh? And then he came back again without missing a beat and said you would have to pay like $36,000 a year in like just luxury items before this tax plan would actually cost you enough to offset the $1,000. And in fact, people would have more buying power under his system, which would support small businesses and protect people from the risk of automation. Like, he was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Damn, calm down, Yang. So I definitely wanted to hear more from him, but the debate panel didn't want to hear more from him, and that was a shame. I think, honestly, it was pretty sad. They really avoided him, but when he did talk, he came off with confidence. He was quick. But the problem is that he wasn't fighting hard enough to get his voice heard. Everyone else was kind of shouting. They were definitely trying to get their voices heard, not waiting their turn. But Yang was sitting there just waiting for himself to be called on, and it didn't work out for him. I think he's the type of person who would perform better in a less crowded interview. So I actually hope that he stays in the game long enough to get into a smaller debate stage where he could really get his plans out there. Because I think his voice is important. I definitely want to hear more about what he's talking about, because it seems like it could work if he's telling the truth, if there isn't, some palpable criticism to what he's saying. But again, no one was able to really offer anything like that. So, I don't know. I would like to see. But to close things out, I would say that the overall winner, the one who performed the best in the entire debate, was probably Kamala Harris. And I hate to say it, because of all the candidates running right now, she's my least favorite of the bunch by far. And I could get into that, but it's probably stuff that people who are already interested have heard before. I'm just not a fan of Harris. There's nothing that she could ever say to make me vote for her. However, she really performed well. She was quick. She was confident. She talked the right talk for the audience that she was in. So, as much as I wish it wasn't true, I can't deny that she was the best performer in that whole debate. Even more so than the popular firebrand Bernie Sanders, who he performed all right, but it was still the same old Sanders. Um, it wasn't really anything too new or surprising out of him. Harris really came out there and controlled a lot of the discussion that she was in. So I think she was the winner. But that's my opinion here, guys. So whatever you guys think, you could definitely leave it down below. That was my thoughts. Peace.